So you want to play a game? Meet Challenger. Welcome to the Film Threat Podcast. I am Chris Gore. Today, we're going to talk to the director of Challenger. And before he comes on, just a couple quick notes. Please like, share, and subscribe this video if you like the content we're doing here on Film Threat. We're doing watch parties, interviews with filmmakers, reviews, reports from film festivals. If you're not watching the Film Threat YouTube channel, what are you doing? And also, a quick reminder, if you want to support our work here at Film Threat, one of the best ways to do that is to you could pick up a Film Threat t-shirt. Why not? You can get the one I'm wearing right now. This might be shaped like a bird, maybe a bat. I don't know. But go to shop.filmthreat.com. Check out the merch we have there. Maybe get yourself a Film Threat mug. Those are pretty cool. It holds any liquid, hot or cold. Delicious. And now I think it's time that we talk to the director of Challenger, Paul Boyd. Welcome to the Film Threat Podcast. Good to talk to you today, sir.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks so much for taking the time. Appreciate it.
This movie, I mean, it's first of all, I love James Duval. James Duval stars in the film, does one of the bravest things ever in the beginning of the movie, shaves his head.
Yeah.
Before we get into the story, real quick with James, who I just adore. Been in so many indie movies that I love, and it's a guy who takes a lot of risks. How do you convince an actor, hey, by the way, opening scene in the movie, love your hair, shave it all off?
Yeah.
How do you convince an actor to make such a big change like that?
You've met James, right?
Oh yeah.
Right. He's a super collaborative guy. I mean, this guy, when we got to the set, he said, I'm just going to stay here. He was the first person on set every day. I mean, this guy is dedicated, and he just fell in love with the role. And you know, to me, he's such a handsome, guy. We wanted Sid to kind of feel a little dystopian. So to me, shaving his head from the beginning was part of the character, regardless who was going to play it. And then we just had to find someone that was willing to do it. And Jimmy was, yep. And of course, when you film someone shaving their head for real, you got to get it, because you get one take, So that was the first thing we shot the day before principal photography in the bathroom of the house. And it just, it's, I go in knowing exactly what I want to do. And then on the day, I kind of leave it open to experiment. And and that process seems to work. I worked on this because we only had 12 days to shoot. So limited time.
It's a really remarkable, fun story. So Sid, just to talk to my audience for a second, Sid's like this kind of loser guy who's making money on the side, selling weed to kids, whatnot. But he's also likable. He plays online games and actually makes a friend that ends up being a friend in real life. But the story centers around he wants to change the trajectory of his life. He's constantly a loser, being dealt bad hands, eviction notices and whatnot, and decides he's going to do, I don't even know if this is real, a 24-hour burial challenge. So what it's supposed to do is it's supposed to give you good luck. Right. If you bury yourself in the ground for 24 hours and then you come out of it kind of renewed, right, and sort of have a newfound appreciation for life. And just as someone who can at times be claustrophobic, there was what was the name of that Ryan Reynolds movie?
Buried.
It's just, Buried. I should have remembered that. Ryan Reynolds, I mean, it had, I mean, that's a different, I mean, that movie is a thriller. This has some aspects of that actually. And I got a little freaked out, like the scenes with Sid in the casket. So can you talk about how you did those scenes? And obviously you were aware of Ryan Reynolds and Barry.
Oh yeah. I saw Ryan Reynolds' movie. I saw a premiere of that, and I couldn't believe they spent 90 minutes in the box. I mean, that blew me away. I was like, boy, they never leave the box. So for years I was writing contained thrillers, and I had a whole script of someone stuck in the trunk of a car. So I've been really focusing on how do I do something similar, but I don't want to be in the box the whole time. And then with this film, it kind of came up that way. We knew we wanted to make a stoner comedy, and then we needed a hook because I wanted it to be a kind of hybrid between a thriller and a comedy. And that was how that came about. And you know, to create the claustrophobia, you know, we actually see Sid go into a real box in a real hole before it closes, and then you're in a stage. So it was a lot of you know, that was important to make it feel real and believable. But you know, all that came down to James and his ability to feel paranoid and to have that tone in his performance where everything is okay, but you know he's terrified. And you know, and his skills as an actor, he has ability to do that, the kind of multi-layered performance, and that was why we needed someone that could really pull it off. And he's a super sensitive guy, as you know, and he was afraid in the box. Like there was a couple of times where we had sandbags on the lid and he couldn't get out, and there was moments, a couple of few seconds of real panic on his part, and that all played into his performance too. And he was he was great to work with, man.
Like, I've just always loved James. I mean, whether it's like a bit part he shows up in a movie, he's just instantly likable, and I'm on board with the journey. There's some other shots that, I mean, the sense of claustrophobia, not only is he in there, he does have like a breathing. It's not like with Ryan Reynolds where he's just buried. He has like this you know, this vent, so he is able to kind of, you know, breathe, and it's like he can. But then when it starts to rain and the box starts to fill up and he has no communication with the outside world.
Yeah.
Dude, there's just a couple shots in there where I'm just like, oh, like,
yeah.
Like, I obviously we don't want to spoil the ending, but holy, I mean, just like,
it's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because a few friends of mine and a couple of guys that work in the business, like who are on sets all day. One of them, my friend Soda Pop, was like, he said he couldn't watch. He said he was pacing around the room. He's freaking him out. And of course, we made the film, so you know we know what's coming up, and we know that it's just a set. But you know, that's the magic of movies, right? The smoke and mirrors aspect of Christ, I'm really in a box. But I think that is to do with how it's set up, because we care about Sid. When we first meet him, we're like, oh, this guy's a loser, you know, but then we judge it. But then as we begin to see him through the eyes of other characters in the film, like in real life, we learn more and we begin to like him. So by the time he's in the box, we actually care about. And that is what creates the suspense, because you're actually committed to the character. I mean, if you are at that point in the film, so then you'll find it scarier. It's not just in the environment, it's the music, you know, it's the setup, because we know there's a foreboding tension that runs through the film. So we know something's going to happen. And really his journey into the ground is more metaphoric and subtext, because he has to cross the threshold into the underworld in order to confront his past. And in confronting his past, it informs us why he is who he is. And it allows for the change, because it's like a mirror in a way. So that was the intention behind that, to kind of make it scary for a moment. But to be honest, Chris, this is a comedy too. Like, we didn't even know if it was going to be funny. Do you know what I mean? We were writing it going, is this going to be funny? Is it going to be scary? We didn't know. Do you know what I mean? It was because it's such a hybrid. But the responses we're getting, people seem to be finding it funny and getting scared. So, you know.
Well, it's spiritual, it's metaphysical at times. It also is funny. It's kind of salted caramel of indie films, in the sense that it has like opposing tones that actually do complement each other. I will say also, the thing that really endeared me to him was his relationship with I forget the character's name, is the other gamer. Logan, yeah, Logan, that's right. So Logan, who's like this teen kid, you know, that he plays with online, who actually doesn't want to really be friends with him in real life. Like, I just know you online. I don't want to be friends with you.
Yeah.
I found that whole relationship really amazing. Like that, he really made it work with that. Yeah. Like, where did you find the actor who played Logan? He was fantastic.
We knew we needed someone that had experience against Jimmy. You know, and we needed a straight man. So we just started, we did casting. Actually, Lindsay Chag, who's a brilliant casting director, she found him. I mean, she knew him and suggested him. So that was how we did it. I saw like 20 guys, and he just walked in, and I'm like, that's him. Like, you know, everything was right. Because I didn't just want a kid. I wanted a very specific looking kid. And I don't just mean, you know, because he was black. I mean, a very specific type of personality and physicality, because he's 19 you know, playing 15, playing 19. Like with, you know, the film's about identity and how we misrepresent ourselves online, which is what everyone does, you know, and that's what happens in this film is they're both, you know, pretending to be something else. And when they're confronted with each other, you know, it's like that connection of there's a moment of honesty between them where they have to come clean. And so, and it's about two opposites, really, right? These two guys, you'd never think they would be friends in real life. But gaming and marijuana, those two elements bring a lot of people together. And I wanted to talk about that, the community. And I'm hoping for our tiny wee film, which it is a tiny little film, that those communities embrace it and share it. You know, that's what we're hoping.
Well, I mean, it's like, I mean, you mentioned stoner comedy, and I definitely saw that at the beginning. I mean, it shifts in tone when he kind of gets this ambitious plan to turn his life around in a dramatic way, and I don't know, like it also, like, you know, when you look at the two things, and there's some things also that happened we can't really talk about at the end that are very like spiritual, like somber, like he, you know, I mean, he's faced with, you know, I would say, you know, everyone's greatest fear, right? Death. Faced with his death and how he handles that. And it's just, it's so it's such a profound spiritual experience towards the end. It really is kind of a shocking turn from the comedic aspects. To lighten up a little bit, did you, the stuff with the video game, that's obviously a fake video game in the movie. What went into that? I mean, that looked kind of fun. I mean, I can see some influences of what it was based on, you know, looking at some of the screenshots in the video, but that must have been fun to put together a fake video game.
Yeah, we knew that it was interesting with the game because I knew we couldn't create a game in the beginning. I was like, how the hell are we going to create a game? So my intention was to never see the screen and only to hear it. So I was like, okay, well, what do we want to hear? And I'm like, well, it has to be the goriest, most gross stuff and have them talk about it. Because in films, talking and thinking and hearing about things is often more scary than seeing the thing itself. Because, you know, you can use your imagination. It's like in Reservoir Dogs when they pan off the guy's cutting the guy's ear and it suddenly becomes more horrific because you're hearing it and you're imagining it. So I thought that's how we do the game. We just hear we'll call it splatter, which is the most disgusting name, and have it just be this kind of orgy of violence and gore. Because, you know, that's also a comment of, do video games influence, you know, that whole, you know, I watched a documentary where the Woodstock the other day and, you know, like the Fred Durst was getting blamed. You know, they always come to the lowest common denominator. But yeah, so that was it. It was kind of, you know, it's interesting you say that because the film takes a turn, right? It goes from being funny to being scary. And that was our biggest challenge too, because, you know, not a lot of films do that. Genre films, you're either one thing or the other. But we knew because it was to do with weed and, you know, that there's a fantasy element in this film. And that is also played in subtext because there's a lot of biblical metaphors in the film. I'm agnostic. I'm not really religious, but I knew because it was the hero's journey that we were following in the film that I wanted to put big tropes and themes in there in a kind of subliminal way with regards to what happens to him in the box, which is kind of on the poster. There's a whole elevation thing, but that is also Birdman influenced that a little bit because I wanted to leave the end. I wanted to put a twist in there where you kind of, there's an ambiguity to the end because it rolls out to where you go, okay, that's what happened. But when you go back and look at what happens in the box, it make you go, well, wait a minute, did it really happen? That was kind of my intention, was to put a little thing in there to leave a question at the end. Because at the end of the film, no doubtedly, you think, oh, this is what's happened. It's transpired in a certain way. But I put that in there to kind of put a question mark.
First of all, I love that you did that because I thought that too, and I love Birdman. That's sort of like that blurring the lines between fantasy and reality. Because I don't know, I just think that's I've always loved that in cinema, and I can see that in there. I'm curious how people have reacted to the film too. And a quick aside, I like that. I feel like it has a respect for gamers. Right? Like, I feel like it has a respect for the gaming community, but how have people reacted to the film?
It's, you know, it's only been out a week, right? So all the reactions we've had from strangers and friends have been phenomenal. It's been quite a surprise, actually, because I've got a lot of really cynical friends in the business and was terrified to show them. But it's been great. The response has been great. And again, when it goes streaming, I think is when we'll really get it, because right now, you know, you got to buy the film, and you know, every film I see online, I pretty much wait and I watch them. You know, if it's something I really want to see, I'll buy it. So I think that the bigger wave will come when it goes streaming. But you know, I think this film's a long hauler. You know, I think it's gonna build slowly over time, hopefully through people like yourself and other people that enjoyed it sharing it. You know what I mean? That's what I think. It's not about an overnight hit. I mean, that would be great if it took off, but we're not expecting that. We're expecting a slow growth, and you know, and that's fine. Now, this is a tiny little movie we made, and we have another one coming out in the summer, and we're shooting another one. So, to me, I just want to keep making them, regardless of, you know, how much money or what budget, and just try and, you know, continually tell stories. You know, and I own all my own equipment now. All the videos and commercials I've done, I've kind of built up my own gear. So going out and shooting, you know, if you work small with a small crew, it's pretty cost effective. You know what I mean? You'd be surprised. Well, you know what some people make movies for $10,000. You know, we made ours for a little bit more than that, but it was, you know, tiny.
That's crazy. But the film is amazing. Check it out. It's on video on demand now, coming to streaming at some point in the future. And Paul, I'm sure you'll be back with your other film.
Man. Yeah, I have another film coming out in the summer. I'd love to come and talk to you about that. That's called We Are Gathered Here Today. That's like a COVID film. It's really dramatic and a complete shift from this, a dramatization. But yeah, we'll be in touch near then, and hopefully we can talk again. But thanks for taking the time, Chris. Much appreciated, man.
All right. Congratulations on iChallenger. Take care.
Peace, bud.